Welcome back guys to this our complete user authentication tutorial with verification, email as well as password reset functionality. So let's go and get started with our application without any further delay. And sorry about my previous video, I was a bit of nervous. I don't know why, what went wrong with me. Maybe it's just because I'm making tutorial after a long time. It can be the case. So let's go and get started without any further ado. So in the first section of this video, we are going to spin up a simple Express server, and inside the source directory, go to the index.js file. So let me import Express from Express that we have installed in the previous video, and also import JSON function from body parser package, and also import course from course function, course module that we installed in the previous video, and also import mongoose to connect with the database from mongoose package that we have installed in the previous video too. And with that all set, we need only these things. So initialize express application. So we'll simply say const app equal to express, and in this way we can create an express function. This will instantiate this express function, and we'll get an app object from there. So we'll be receiving inside this app function, app variable. So now let's go ahead and create a main function. So const main equal to a function, and in this we'll put try and catch block. So in case of any error starting our server, so it will throw it out over there. And also I want to import consola package. So consola from consola, and this package will be useful in logging our whatever things we need. And now here inside this main function won't do anything itself. We have to instantiate this function, so we can simply call this main function over here. So now this main function will connect our application and start listening for the app. So these are the steps. Firstly, connect with the database. Okay, then start application server. Okay, so we have to listen, start listening for request on server. We have divided this into two parts, and firstly let's connect the database. For that we need to pull in all our app constants from our .env files. So for that, inside this constant folder, we'll create a new file called index.js, and here we have installed a package called .env. So from .env package will bring in a config function. So config function, and after bringing in that, we have to instantiate this config function to pull in all the environment variables to the application. So we'll simply say config, and once we do that, now here we have access to these variables inside our application, inside a process object. So let's go ahead and export all the constants one by one from here. So export const domain equal to process.env.appdomain, and in the same fashion I'm going to create another constant that will be our, okay, so here main, okay, sorry about that. And now I'll bring in our app port. In the same way we'll bring in our db. So these are the things which we are pulling it out, and let me put app send grid also in the same fashion. So send grid send grid API constant also we'll bring in that way. And in the process.app port, so here we will have a choice. So in case if you are deploying it on Heroku or something like that, it will automatically give you a port. So if that is defined, go to this, otherwise use whatever we have defined inside our process.env file. So in this env file, so this one is from like the system on which it is deployed. If it has already defined some kind of port variable, it will pull that up. If that is not defined, then it will pull this one. So, and in the same fashion, we need to bring in our app secret too. So secret. So I think we have all 5 of the constant exported from this file. Now we can receive them inside the index.js file. Import application constants. So let's connect with the database. So for that we'll simply use mongoose.connect, and it will take 2 things. So first one is db URI. So we will bring in our db from same directory constants, and if inside this we'll get the autocomplete option to get the db, and also we are looking for the port. So we are pulling out db as well as the port, and you can keep also noticing this thing. We are getting a lot of changes, so it's taking a lot of error. It is showing error because we haven't provided our db object yet. So it will take another option and use new URL parser. We set it to true. Use unified topology. We'll again set that to true, and then use find and modify. We'll set that to true too. So these 3 options we will pass that. But there's one issue. If I write like this here, consola.success server database connected, if I write like this, and let's save this. So if I go here, you can see here database is connected. But the thing is, like, connecting with the database may take some time. So JavaScript is not gonna wait to finish up this process, and it will automatically move to the next line. So here we have to block the code, and we have to say that, hey JavaScript, first connect with the database, then move to the next line. So that is a kind of asynchronous task, and we can call this as an asynchronous function. We can make this, and inside this we'll put that await. So now it will do first connect with the database, then run this line. So this is we are going to block the code here. We are done connecting with the database. We have to start app.listen, and here we will pass the port. And once we pass the port, it will give a callback, and in that callback can be used using console package. And inside that we'll simply say server started on port, and we'll pass that port object. So now if I go here, now firstly it is connecting with the database, then it's starting the server. So that's how it is working. So that means there's no issue. Now in case of any error, we want to use this console object and just print that error down. So we are already catching that error, and instead of success, we'll simply say unable to start the server, and with the new line we'll throw that error message. So by default this error object has a message property also, and we are going to access that message property here. So in case of any error happens, it will automatically caught here, and it will bring the server back. Now we have to set these middlewares that we have just brought in. Later we have a whole lot of bunch of middlewares to also implement. So apply application middlewares app.use, and it's very simple. So firstly we want to initialize course middleware, then app.use, then JSON middleware. So JSON we brought in from this body parser package that we have, and we are good to go with our app. So let's go ahead and close that up, and let's define a user model for us. So new file, and I'm going to create index.js, and another file which I want to create user.js with capital U, inside this user.js file, I'm going to bring in something from mongoose package, and we'll define our user here. So first of all, we want to bring in a schema, so which will be helpful in creating our user schema as well as a model. So then we are going to say const user schema equal to new schema, and inside that we'll pass two objects. So in the second object, I want to pass timestamps, and we'll set that to true. And by doing this thing as an option inside this one, it will automatically give the access to have these fields called created at as well as updated at fields to the model. But in the first object, we have to provide all kind of details that we want to have inside our user model. So let's go ahead and define our user model fields. So we want a name, and we'll put a type of a string, and it should be required because we won't allow any user to create their account without any name. We'll set that to true. In the similar fashion, we want to have the username, and then we want to have the email. So every user should have an email. That is a very strict condition that we want to put. Then also we want to have a password, user password also there. And these are the fields that we will require. Then we also need verification. So verified is a property that we want to put that, and it will be of type boolean, and default it will be false. So the time of creation of user, it will be automatically be false, and we will use that. Then we will be also needing something called verification token. So verification token, or let's name it code, and we'll set that to normal. It will be normal string only. So we'll put that, and it is not required. Then what else do we need? Yeah, reset password functionality. So reset password token. So we will be issuing some kind of token to the user and the link, so that on the click of that link, the user can reset their password. So we need to have some kind of a verification thing here, and again it should be of a type string, and it will be a false one. Okay, then reset password, because we want to give some kind of time limit to that password expiry. So we'll simply say expires in, and this will be of kind date, type date, and required field should be false. Yep. Let me quickly shrink a bit so that you can see everything properly. So we have a name, we have a username, we have an email, password, verified, verification token, reset password token, then we have a reset password expires in. Now we want to define a couple of functions over here, which is related specifically to the user schema. So let's go ahead and do that. So we'll simply say user schema dot pre, and we want to access hooks. So hook are something like it gives some kind of functionality to the model. So we are going to look for the hook. So if it is a save request, if it is an update request, so we can cache them here using these hooks here. So and this is gonna be asynchronous function, and here I'm not gonna use arrow functions at all, because in this a lot of scoping issues happens, because with the arrow function there's no scope of that thing, but with this one we can get that. And then we have a next, and let user equal to this. So if I write this, so it will access whatever it is referred to. So we can access this keyword inside this one if we are writing this kind of function. But if you are using arrow function, we won't be able to use this keyword there. The scope will be not defined. So if not user dot is modified, so if we haven't changed the password, let's say if we have changed the password, then we'll return normal next, like we haven't changed this password field. So that means it is gonna keep the track. If the password field is not changed, then we are not going to do anything. But if it is changed, then we want to say something user.password equal to, and here we will hash our password. So we'll import hash function from bcrypt.js, and we are going to hash that password over here using this. So it is gonna be await. That's why I put asynchronous task, and we'll put hash, and we'll put that user dot password, and then we will pass round of salt. So for now I'm using 10 round of salt, and then we'll pass that next. So in case the password is not modified, it will automatically move out of this function. But if the password field is updated, then it will normally save that password over there. Then we want to define user schema dot methods. So I'll tell you the difference between this pre-hook and what is the difference between these methods in a bit. Dot compare password, and this will take normal as an asynchronous function. Okay, and again here, due to this scoping issue, I'm using normal function, not the arrow function. So now we can use that and return await. So whatever the password will be passed in over here, so we'll pass that password, return await, compare this dot password with the password that we have passed over there. So this is a different password, and this is the user's password, which is inside this model, which will be associated with this model. And actually it will be first one, second one will be with this one. Okay, so it will return kind of a boolean value if the password hash is matching with the plain string format password. So we are just comparing both the hashes generated from these two passwords. Then the third function which I want to create is user schema dot methods, and in that generate token, actually not token, JWT. And now here we are going to use JWT, so we have to bring in our JSON web token function. Okay, and this method will generate a login token for our application. So we need sign function from our JSON web token package, and also we need a app secret. So we will bring in that from our app constants that we have, app secret. And let me check if I have pulled it or not. Okay, so it is secret only, not app secret. So we will bring in that constant over here too. So now you can see we have brought in this compare function, we have secret, sign, and now with the help of this thing, this function will issue our token. So we'll simply say const, let's say we generate our token for a day. So let's do that. Return await sign, and in that sign we'll pass in our payload. Payload will be simple, let payload equal to username, this dot, and make sure in this token you don't put any kind of confidential field. So this dot username, name, this dot name, email, this dot email, I think and also most important field, that's ID field. So this dot underscore ID. So this is the payload, and inside this sign function will pass that payload as a first argument, and second argument will be our secret, and the third argument which we want to pass in is expires in, and we'll pass that 1 day. Okay, so this will return this JWT token from here with the help of this sign function, and inside that we are passing this payload over there. So this is another method which can access this method with the help of a object which we'll get with the user object, user ID. So now the third function which I want to create is the generate password reset token. So user schema dot methods and dot generate password reset equal to, again this will be asynchronous function, and let's not make it an asynchronous function, simple function that we have, and inside we will simply check that this dot reset password expires in will be for like an hour. So the dot now plus 36,000 seconds into milliseconds plus an hour. So we'll issue this password expires in will be for like an hour. So within that hour, user has to simply go and modify his or reset this password link. Otherwise that link won't be there. And we need to create some kind of token for the user. So we'll simply use the crypto library, and don't worry, you don't have to install that at all. So we'll simply go and bring in that crypto function from here. So from crypto function, we'll bring in a generate random bytes, I guess. Random bytes, I guess. Yeah, random byte. So we'll generate kind of random bytes, and this dot reset password token equal to random bytes, and inside that we'll pass 20. You can pass any number to string, then whatever the bytes we get, we have to convert that into string, and we'll encode with the hex codes. So this will generate that, and once we are done we are good to go. Now one library which is very useful in kind of pulling out the values from the objects. So I want to also get that. So let me quickly go ahead and install that library. So I'm going to open it inside my terminal, npm install lodash, and it's very useful library. If you go to the documentation, it's very useful. And I'm going to import pick function from lodash. This lodash package has made my life hell lot easier, so I'm kind of fan of this library. UserSchema methods get user info, and this is normal function, and again I'm gonna pass that function over there, and inside that will return that pick, and inside that pick it will take an object. So from that object whatever we want to, so inside this methods we have access to this, and in that we have to pass the ID. So whatever we want, let's say ID, I want username, I want email of the user, also I want, I think for now this will do all the job. Yeah, one more thing, let's pull that name. So it will remove this password field also from there, so it will pull these three values with the ID of the user. So this is again kind of like very useful handy package. And now once we are done defining these methods, so one is a pre-hook, the second one is a compare password method, the third one is the generate JWT token for the user, the fourth one is the generate password reset link, and the fifth one is this get user info. So these are the methods that we have defined, and now we'll export this as from here, and now we'll use models, and it will refer to the users collection inside the database, and it will use UserSchema. So once we are done that, we have to export default user. Now we have exported default this user from here. So inside this index.js we have to export from user as a default user, default as user from here. So later we will also add a profile route. So this is not the profile of the user, profile will be kind of very different, so later we'll add that inside this application. So that was a lot of code, I know, but the UserSchema has a lot of super functionalities with these pre-hooks and methods, so we won't have to do much inside our router. So hope you enjoyed this one, but you also got to know about a lot of new functionalities of this mongoose object. So let's finish it up with our validators also. So I'm going to create a new file called index.js and also a new file called user-validators.js. So these are the two files, and we are going to export all from users validators inside our validator index.js file. And now inside here user validator.js file, we are going to import from Express-Validator check function. So we can define rules, you can write a lot of logics about that, you can go through the documentation is pretty nice and clean. So const name equal to check, and we'll look for the name field, and we'll simply say name is required dot not dot is empty. So in case there is no name provided, we will throw that user out with this message. Then we'll simply say const username is also required, so we'll again put that check. Let me copy this username. Then we have a password password is required of minimum length of 6, and we'll put that over here dot function, and in here we'll pass minimum of 6 characters and is not. So in either case it will be like it's gonna throw that user out. So then fourth validator is email field, so I'm gonna put that check and email, please provide a valid email address, and that is email function is there, so it will automatically validate the email from here. Now from here I'm gonna export 2 constants more. So these are not the exported constant, but now we are going to export 2 constant as an array. So export const register validations, and this will be acting as a middleware to our Express routers. So now we can pass them. So we have a password field, we have a name field, we have a username field, we have a email field. So we need all 4 fields in terms of registering our user. And the second export I want to create is Authentication validations, and we will be having here our username. So for the validation we will be validating via username. You can validate if you want to with the help of email address, you can do that too, but it should have these 2 values. So you can see once again we have an Express validator, we have a name field, we have a username field, constants of email, and the password. So let me close that up, and we are done with our Express validators. Let's go ahead and create a simple route inside our Express API. So we are going to simply say users.js, and we'll import router from Express. And once we are done importing that, we will define a router, const router, and we instantiate this function that we are getting from Express, and we'll export default router from here. So now to use that inside our main application, this is not yet connected with our main app. So let's go ahead and do that. Router exports, and we can simply say import user router from APIs. Actually, let's name it instead of router, user APIs from APIs users. And this is yet not used, so let's go ahead and inject that. Inject sub router and APIs. We can do that by simply saying app.use. If anything starts with users, just use this router user APIs, and once if I do that, our app shouldn't break, it should run just fine for now. And let's go ahead and start creating our registration route. So I kind of like put headers too, to my application. So we'll put description, API, access, type. Type will be all automatically post because we are going to accept some kind of data. API will be /users/API/register. Access will be public because anyone can come to our application and register their account. Description: to create a new user account.